going to bring a firearm into a city, and upon encountering police, he also decided that he was going to resist arrest. Let me remind you that our officers have guidelines to follow by policy when it comes to using force, which, mind you, using force is never pretty. It's never pretty to use force, but sometimes we have to use force either to compel compliance or for self-defense. And mainly our officers use this force under the standard of objectively reasonable to accomplish lawful objectives and to uphold the mission to protect and serve. The purpose of the Providence Police Department's use of force policy is to provide our officers with those guidelines that I just mentioned regarding use of force, to prevent unnecessary force, to ensure accountability and transparency, and to ensure that our community's trust and confidence in the Providence Police Department's ability to protect and serve is second to none. In this particular incident, this individual resisted arrest, refused to comply with the officer's command, and was struck by hard, empty hand control techniques, punches, to get him to comply, which he ultimately did, and a firearm with a high-capacity magazine was then seized. Let's be clear, this was a hectic, chaotic situation, and I want to commend the restraint and professionalism of our Providence police officers. People were throwing bottles, obstructing their arrest, yelling and screaming. There was a lot of people that showed up and decided that they were going to drink and be part of the criminal element in our city. We have come a long way. I can remember the days as a young police officer in the city of Providence dealing with the Dominican Festival. People getting shot, our officers being placed in danger, and that's not something that we're going back to. And so the Providence Police Department have a mission to ensure that the safety of our city is second to none. I agree, I think that is a great cultural event. We get hundreds of people that come from not just New England, but New York and other places. We have one of the second largest, or probably the largest Dominican population in the city of Providence. But if you think for 1 minute that you're gonna come to this city, engage in drinking and in reckless actions and carrying a firearm, you better bet that the Providence Police Department will do their job, because that's what we train for. And I wanna make sure that you understand that this incident was reviewed, documented properly. It was reviewed by supervisors, it was reviewed by internal affairs, and it was just a use of force that needed to be applied to compel the compliance from this individual that, again, was carrying a high-capacity firearm, resisted arrest, and was actually on probation for another firearm arrest that occurred a few years ago.
So at that point, when you see him getting punched, was he cuffed with his hands behind his back?
He was not. He was actually with his hands out. He was actually trying to get at the satchel. The sergeant who observed those actions quickly thought about what he needed to do, and he used hard, empty hand control techniques by punching him. And as you can see in the video, the individual then goes forward, he's taken to the ground, he's handcuffed, and a firearm is seized with no injuries.
And you said it's already been reviewed.
Correct.
Is it fair to say from what you're saying now that there's no discipline being handed out to any officers?
Correct. It's being reviewed by internal affairs, supervisors, and that same night we have lieutenants. When we have the Dominican Festival, it's all hands on deck. The commander, O'Hara, was there on scene working. I worked there from the morning all the way to the night. And so we were all out there. And so, yeah, we had enough supervision to review and document. Again, no one wants to use force, and I don't think any Providence Police officer comes to work thinking that they're going to use force. But unfortunately, it's part of the job, because it's either for self-defense or to compel compliance. And that's what happened on Sunday. It was used to have an individual comply based on guidelines that are provided to our officers, based on policy, reviewed and documented properly, and that's what occurred.
And do you think at that moment there was a possibility with that many officers around him that he could have reached in the satchel and gotten the gun?
Absolutely, and it's happened in many places. We've had people that get shot with officers within feet of them. Years ago, I could remember one of the nightclubs on Broad Street with officers on the detail. The subject pulled out a firearm and shot somebody, and that's the last thing we want, is to ensure. So yes, he had access to it, and when things like that happen, they escalate pretty quick. And officers have to think quickly, they have to use force quickly. I mean, we have policies in place. You can go from verbal commands to people to apply, to hand control techniques, to punches, to sometimes, unfortunately, deadly force. And that's something that is progressive, and but our officers are well trained, and we just don't know what life we save by seizing this firearm. I mean, we're about 211 guns year to day seized, and you just don't know how many lives you save, because those are numbers that we can't account for. But by taking guns off the streets of the city of Providence, I know for a fact that it will continue to lower crime in the city, and it will continue to save lives. And that's what our officers did on that day.
Based on the report and the video that's circulating, obviously it was a chaotic looking scene and there were several people arrested here. Can you say how many people were arrested throughout the festival as it went on throughout the entire day?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up arresting 10 people throughout the day. And also we seized 2 firearms. This was one of them, another firearm that we seized. We also issued several violations and tickets for either illegal parking or publicly drinking. On that specific day in that corner, we got calls from constituents saying that they couldn't leave their houses because people were blocking their driveways. And so our officers were in the area to ensure that people peacefully can and just enjoy the vibrant culture and festivities of the city, which is it's a great thing for our city. But I'd still say that it's a problem with those that want to be part of the criminal element. And they expect us not to act, and that's not our job. Our mission is to make sure that everybody is protected and served. And again, I want to commend the work of the men and women of the Providence Police that on that day was second to none. I mean, think about it. We're dealing with thousands of people that come into the city, and you have individuals that want to carry firearms. Everyone was safe, everyone enjoyed, but unfortunately, yeah, 10 people ended up in handcuffs, and other people ended up, violations that we issued just to ensure that the safety of our city is there, and that's our mission. So.
You've called this a violent festival in the past, right?
In the past years, we've come a long way. I mean, if you think about it, I've got 31 years on the job. I've done the festival probably every year. And so there was fights, festivities. The official festival is at Roger Williams Park. Unfortunately, some people decided they're gonna have unofficial activities and act reckless in our city. And so in years past, yes, we've had people that got shot. We've had gun arrests. And so we want to make sure that they can continue to have, and I know the organizers of these events work extremely hard to make sure that it's safe, and so our job is to ensure that the festivities like this, and we have such a vast amount of people that come to the city, that they know that when they come to the city of Providence, they're going to be safe. That's our job.
How many officers were on detail for that night, for the whole day?
So I'll give you the exact details because there was on and off people that came in different times of the hours, but we were close to the hundreds numbers, I think. We actually, sometimes we have to bring the relief. On that day, I know we actually held over the day shift, brought back the second shift, actually almost held back the second shift, and we were thinking about bringing back the outlast. But again, once we made arrest and got everything under control on Broad Street under the command of Commander O'Hara, we didn't need to bring the third shift. But I remember years past where we will hold the whole relief before they went home. So it's busy. It's busy.
And just to be clear, the problems you encountered Sunday and what you're talking about in the past, is that usually at these, not the official event at the park? Is that usually whether it's like an after party or stuff going on Broad Street after?
Correct. Yeah, it's a lot of private parties. People will have parties at their houses. People will try and enter the park and set up their own parties, either with music, public drinking. They'll have vehicles that are equipped with audio, and they want to have their own unofficial events, and that's sometimes what causes problems. And so yes, it's unofficial sometimes, and we have to monitor that and enforce it.
And you said, at the beginning here that because this video is circulating on social media, what do you tell people who see the video and either they don't know the context that you've explained, or they may not even, the context you've explained, they may say, well, either way, that's the police punching a guy, and so it gets this reaction. What's your response to when something like this goes?
Great question, Brian, and I appreciate it. Yes, I want to make sure that they know that for a fact we have policies in place. Our officers know by policy how much force they can use. It's never pretty. It's never pretty, and I want to make sure that at least they watch the video. We have an open door here. We're transparent. We're not hiding anything. And I'll tell you that if somebody uses force for the wrong reasons, I've said it before, I said it in police academies, if you come to the city of Providence and you work in the city of Providence, you got to be professional and police the city in a constitutional manner. So I want to make sure that the public knows that we hold each other accountable. And when force is used, which again is never pretty, because you use either for self-defense or to compel compliance, know that we here in the Providence Police Department hold each other accountable. And if someone unfortunately makes a mistake or does something that is so egregious, they're going to be held accountable. Incidents like this, yes, they're questionable because again, we use force to compel a compliance or for self-defense. It's never pretty, but that's sometimes what we need to do in order to make sure that we that we use objectively reasonable force for objective lawful actions. Yeah, something that I live by. It's got to make sure that officers are to use only that force that is objectively reasonable to accomplish lawful objectives. So that's key for us.
The, you said it was just one officer who used force in this instance?
Correct. It was one officer. It was actually a sergeant that used the force, and there was all the officers around. But as you can see, one of the officers uses forces, the other one is just holding them down to take this individual down to the ground. So again, it's training. It's training, it's experience. It's just, our officers that police the city is not to pat myself in the back, but this is what we do. This is what we do every year on a daily basis. And when we use force, we use it for the right reasons. I just want the public to know that.
How long has he been with the department, sir?
He's gonna have close to, I don't have the exact number, but I can get you that.
What's his name?
Officer Sergeant Salmons.
Can you repeat that?
S-A-L-M-N-O-S, Salmons. And Lindsay can provide you the details of that.
Anything else? What does this review process look like when you say you kind of look back at it and determine they did the right thing or maybe they were too forceful? What does that look like? What kind of standards? I know
So there's a policy. So we usually, so the initial is documented on a police report. From there is sent over to supervisors in the patrol division that oversee it, a lieutenant. It goes to a captain, then it's approved, then it's sent over to internal affairs to be checked over again and to make sure that every policy, whether it was justified within policy or not, and if it's not, it's sent back down to be addressed. And if it's that concerning, then it goes right up to me. And then at that point, decisions are made whether somebody needs to be suspended, disciplined, terminated, whatever the case may be. Yep.
Just curious, I know Brian had already touched on, the beginning of the video with the punching, the gut, the stomach. I think when people look at that, they're kind of like, oh my goodness, out of context, they're not sure what's going on, it looks pretty brutal. Is that something you're teaching? Like, what is the point of that punch? What was he trying to do in that instance, I guess is my question.
It was to compel compliance. Sometimes it's tools of opportunity. You go through a door, there's someone that has a knife or a pitchfork is coming at you, and you may want to use hands, whatever the case may be. It all depends, but it's all about to compel compliance based on commands that are given for us to make an arrest. And again, the ultimate goal is to make sure that we made the arrest and put people through the criminal justice system. The last thing we want to do is hurt anybody or take somebody's life.
Okay. Thank you, guys.